As I promised, I'm going to redo my tarot card reading for the current Israel-Palestine conflict in the Middle East. So I'm going to be using my Thoth Tarot deck primarily, also known as the Crowley-Harris deck. Now, before I do a tarot card reading, I designate one of the 16 court cards as the significator card, representing the querent, the person asking the question. In this case, the querent is the state of Israel, which isn't here to ask the question, so I'm asking it for it. However, I've chosen the Knight of Swords because knights represent air, and the suit of swords represents air, and I see the state of Israel as being an air sign acting in an airy fashion in regards to conflict, intellectual ideology, matters like that. And I've chosen an air sign because the state of Israel in their horoscope, based on 14 of May 1948 at 4:00 p.m., designates their rising sign, their ascendant, as being Libra, which is an air sign. So then I'm going to shuffle the cards really carefully. And while I'm shuffling the cards, I'm going to be thinking about my query, my question for the cards. I'm going to try to formulate it as best as I can, although I'm not superstitious. I don't believe that somehow if you don't concentrate well enough, then magically the cards aren't going to give you the answer. I think that it is important to formulate, because when I lay down the cards, the first triad is going to be the heart of the matter, and if it doesn't resonate with the question, then I'll discard that, reshuffle the deck, and start all over again. Now, my query tonight, my question for the tarot, is whether or not the current Israel-Palestine conflict in the Middle East is going to lead to the war of Gog and Magog in the Bible. Right, so now that I've shuffled the cards thoroughly, I'm going to lay them down into 4 piles representing the Tetragrammaton, the 4-lettered name of God. Yod, He, Vav, He. So like this, holding with my right hand, drawing with my left hand. So Yod, He, Vav, He. Yod, He, Vav, He. And just like that, I'm going to keep doing that until I get till the end. Okay, so when I get to the end of the deck, I'm going to be left with 2 cards instead of 4. I'm going to place these 2 cards in the first Hay deck and the final Hay deck, because the Yod represents macroprosopis, the Vav represents microprosopis, and the 2 Hay decks represent the Shekinah. Male, female, male, female. Now this is because the Yod deck represents macroprosopis, the non-erect divine phallus, whereas the Vav deck represents microprosopis, the divine erect phallus. And both of them are going to impregnate with an extra card the first Hay deck and the final Hay deck, which represent the divine feminine Shekinah. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to see which one of these 4 decks, the Yod, Hay, Vav, final Hay deck, has the significator, the Knight of Swords in it. In this case, it is not the Yod deck, it is not the first Hay deck, it is not the Vav deck, it's the final Hay deck. So in my opinion, this represents the following. If it had been in the Yod deck, it would have represented the divine world of Atziluth, which is the divine world of the 10 Sephiroth, the 10 emanations of God. Now, if it had been found in the first Hay deck, it would represent the divine world of Beria, the divine world of creation of the archangels, representing the water dimension of emotions, of intuition, and stuff like that. If it had been found in the Vav deck, then it would represent the divine world of Yetzirah, the divine world of formation, representing the angels, and also the realm of air, which is intellectual ideology and conflicts and stuff like that. However, since it was found in the final hay deck, it represents the world of Ashia, the world of making. And this is the spiritual, the mystical world of the material, representing the 10 Sephiroth, not as divine emanations, but as internal chakras, kind of like in yoga. So in this case, it represents the earth element, matters of practicality, money, health, your physical condition, stuff like that. Right, so now I'm going to discard the other 3 decks and lay them aside because they don't matter to this reading, and I'm just going to focus on the final hay deck. I'm going to lay it down in 5 sets of triads. So I'm going to start with the first 3, laying the first card down, and then the next card to its left, and the next card to its right. And this is going to represent the heart of the matter. And before I proceed, I'm going to analyze the heart of the matter to see whether or not it resonates with my query, with my question, which again in this case was whether or not the current Israel-Palestine conflict in the Middle East is going to escalate into the war of Gog and Magog mentioned in the Bible. Okay, so at this point, I've laid down the first triad, which I call the heart of the matter. First, the center card, and then to its left, and then to its right. And in regards to this, I don't use reverse cards, so I would use elemental attributes. The trump cards don't affect it typically. However, in regards to the pip cards and the court cards, fire interacts with earth element fairly well, so it doesn't conflict. So all these cards are going to be right side up. They're going to have a normal reading rather than a so-called reversed reading. So in regards to my current query of whether or not the current Israel-Palestine conflict is going to escalate into the biblical war Gog and Magog, let's see if this applies. So we have a sense of worry about a matter of materiality, which I'm thinking may represent my question about whether or not this is the war of Gog and Magog, or leading into it, to be more precise, flanked by a aspect of fiery will and travel, maybe in a military travel and escalation, military escalation into such a conflict. So this does seem to match my query, my question, so I'm not going to discard it, at least at this point it seems to match. My first triad I lay down represents the heart of the matter. And I lay down the middle card first, and then the card to its left, and then the card to its right. And then I add to the Thoth Tarot deck the Rider-Waite deck to help with just the imagery and helping to understand the meaning of the cards. That's my usual process. And so in this case, we have the 5 of Swords, which is the Lord or Lady of worry. And this is Mercury acting in Taurus. So with this card, we have the energy of communication, which is Mercury, trickery, and an earth sign, a cardinal earth sign, which is Taurus, which is regards to material security, possessions, stuff like that. With the Rider deck, the symbolism seems to be people that money is available in this church, but these destitute people don't have access to it or unaware of it. So Lord of Lady of Worry seems to represent that aspect of monetary means being available but not being readily accessed, because the number 5 represents the divine Sephiroth known as Geburah, which is the card of Din, judgment, or power, which is typically a more negative card, although it can have positive aspects as well. And it's being flanked by the King of Wands, or the Prince of Wands. And this represents the fiery nature of fire signs such as Aries and Leo and Sagittarius. And it's also flanked by one of the trump cards, which is the Chariot, which is attributed to the zodiac sign of Cancer, which represents like self-protection, home. The chariot imagery also represents travel, like military parade, a show of military force and whatnot. In regards to this circumstance with the current conflict in Israel, Palestine, and the Middle East. All right, so moving on to my next triad of cards. Again, laying down the full card first in the middle. To its left, the King or Prince of Cups, and to its right, the Ten of Discs, Pentacles, coins. So this triad represents the current aspects of the nature of the query instead of its future aspects. So in this case, we have no ill dignified, because this is a trump card, so it's interacting just fine with water suit and the earth suit. And even if these two are next to each other, earth and water are compatible. Okay, so astrologically, the full card represents the outer planet of Uranus, or alchemically Mercury. And this card, well dignified, represents divine inspiration. Ill dignified, it represents foolish action. But either way, the tarot is the fool's journey, so it's signifying a sense of like taking a risk, a leap of faith, kind of acting in a matter which can be considered either foolish or divinely inspired, depending on its context right now. It's flanked by the King or the Prince of Cups, which represents a water sign such as Cancer, and Scorpio and Pisces, acting in a fiery manner. So this weird mixture of water and fire. And then to its right is also the Ten of coins, discs, or pentacles, which is the Lord or Lady of Wealth, which is attributed to Mercury and the zodiac sign of Virgo. Mercury, again, is like communication, trickery, stuff like that. Virgo is a mutable earth sign, so it represents the more critical aspects of earth. So in here in the weight Pemmican Coleman Smith deck, we have a sense of like an older person bequeathing his inheritance to the younger members of the family. So I think what's going on right here is perhaps a sense of a foolishness in regards to this issue with somebody who's emotional but acting in a very willful manner in regards to their inheritance of the land. So this could represent kind of like maybe folly in regards to what's going on. I think it means that right now, this is not the war of Gog and Magog. That's the way I'm interpreting this. You know what I mean? Basically, that my heart of the matter, my question is kind of a foolish question in regards to what's going on right now is not this war of Gog and Magog. All right, so next I've laid down the third triad of cards, and this one represents the future of the matter if the current state remains the same. So this middle card, the Eight of Coins or Discs or Pentacles, is the Lord or Lady of Prudence. It's attributed to Sun and Virgo, the zodiac sign of Virgo. Sun being life energy, will, vitality, and again, Virgo being the more analytical, critical side, the mutable aspects of Earth. The Rider deck has a workman who's working on these pentacles or these coins. And here the Thoth Tarot has like a tree that's budding. This production is going on. Okay, and to its left we have the Two of Coins or Discs or Pentacles, which represents Jupiter in Capricorn. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, good fortune in astrology. Capricorn is the cardinal earth sign, which represents like ambition, seeking power. And the Rider-Waite deck has a person juggling finances. And here we have in the Thoth Tarot Ouroboros, the serpent that's eating its tail, and the yin yang. So therefore we have basically, a prudent use of limited resources. Okay, and to the right we have the Emperor card, one of the trump cards, which is related to the zodiac sign of Aries, which represents, a self-assertiveness, an ability to just have confidence in getting stuff done. It's a cardinal fire sign. So with this future regarding my query about the war of Gog and Magog, I think it kind of shows that there's a potential for it to become this war of Gog and Magog, because we have a certain diligence in right now in actions perhaps leading to it, which involve just kind of a balancing of delicate circumstances, but also a certain sense of perhaps the state of Israel being confident in what it's doing right now. So I would say yes, regards to the future, this could potentially lead to a war of Gog and Magog if the circumstances just kind of fall into place the way that it would need to be, based on some tricky conditions. Okay, so the next triad of cards represents things that are within our control, or in this case, Israel's control, regarding the heart of the matter. So things which may be in their power to either cause this conflict to escalate or not escalate into the biblical war of Gog and Magog. The first card in the middle is the Queen of Coins, Pentacles, or Discs, which would be an earth sign acting in a watery, emotional, intuitive manner. To its left is the trump card of the Devil, which is attributed to the zodiac sign of Capricorn, which again is a cardinal earth sign, which is self-sufficient, seeking power, influence, stuff like that. And flanked by its right is the Nine of Coins, Discs, or Pentacles, which is the Lord or Lady of Gain. And this represents Venus and Virgo. Venus being a sign of love and passion and creativity and art. And again, Virgo being analytical, critical, mutable earth sign. And here we have with the Rider deck a royal woman with her falcon, symbolizing nobility, royalty, kind of living with luxury in her garden with all her wealth. So I think what we have here is a material security, the land of Israel, which is very emotional about its existence in the land, perhaps, and acting very prudently, trying to consolidate its power, its influence in the land right now with this conflict, its retaliation against the attacks perhaps by Hamas, and its sense of nobility and influence in the world events with its wealth. So this is all within its control. I think this means that like the Netanyahu government, or its more anti-Netanyahu liberal aspects, with Herzog, the president, Netanyahu being the prime minister, they may have within their influence the ability to change course or not regarding this becoming the war of Gog and Magog, but these are what's in their control. I don't think Netanyahu is going to be prudent. I think he's going to be more assertive and taking for granted that they have the nobility of the land, the possession of the land. So I think what's in their control is probably not going to happen. But anyways. Okay, so my final triad represents the fate of the matter, things that are not within the control of Israel. They just have to accept it as their destiny. The middle card represents the Princess of Wands, or the Page of Wands. I prefer to call it the Maiden of Wands. To its left is the trump card known as the Lovers, which is attributed to Gemini, which represents social acuity, but also deception sometimes. And then flanked to its right is the Knight of Swords, which again was the card that I chose to be the significator for the querent for the state of Israel. And this one represents a air sign acting in an airy manner. So one of the air signs like Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. So one thing I noticed is there's a lot of court cards in this layout, probably meaning a lot of people, a lot of influence by actual individuals involved in this process. Probably political figures like President Joe Biden, former President Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, as well as like Herzog and Netanyahu in Israel itself. And while the Lovers card usually, the Lovers, you think of like romance, it's also a choice card. I think in this case it's more of a choice, and maybe a choice between whether continue in this earthly manner or to be more aggressive, more airy, conflicting with ideology. And I think that's, again, even though it's a choice, this is a fated aspect. This is that triad of fate. So basically it's going to involve, with the war of Gog and Magog, a fate of certain choices. So this could become the war of Gog and Magog based on certain choices that are fated for Israel to make in this circumstance. Perhaps regarding the escalation or non-escalation of conflict with Hamas in the Gaza Strip, with the so-called Palestinians, the displaced Jordanians,
whether or not to use this, what's considered a disproportionate use of force against them, turning perhaps world leaders against Israel in regards to their sense of, self-defense, which most people are sympathetic towards, but when there's a disproportionate use of retaliation, then foreign nations tend to turn against Israel in the sense of, no, this is not right. You're not taking a balanced approach. All right, and finally, regarding this whole issue, we have 5 cards left over. And that's because it was the final Hay deck. If it was the Yod deck or the Vav deck, we ended up with 4 cards left over. The 4 cards would have represented the Tetragrammaton, Yod, He, Vav, He. In this case, we have the Pentagrammaton, Yod, He, Shin, Vav, He. So, again, the Yod aspect represents the world of Atzilut, the world of the divine emanations of the Sephiroth, the 10 Sephiroth. The first Hay deck represents the divine world of Beriah, the world of creation, the world of the archangels. The Vav deck represents, again, the divine world of Yetzirah, the world of formation, the world of the angels. And the final Hay deck represents the divine world of Ashia, the world of the mystical aspect of the Sephiroth as chakras within humanity itself. And then the Shin represents the world of the divine world of the Partsufim, the rectified divine Sephiroth in their salvific role as personifications such as macroprosopis, microprosopis, and the 2 aspects of Shekinah. Of course, the first thing I notice is there's a lot of fate in regards to this because most of these are trump cards. We begin with the Empress, which is attributed to Venus. So again, love, passion, creativity. So in the fiery aspect of will, we have this energy of creativity, passion. In this case, I would say negative passion in regards to whether or not the current conflict between Israel and Palestine will lead to the war of Gog and Magog in the Bible. We have in the realm of the emotions, we have the Magus card, the Magician, which is attributed to Mercury, which is communication, but also trickery. So in this case, trying to cleverly deal with the situation from an emotional standpoint. We'll skip this one for a second, go to the Vav deck, and we have the trump card of the Tower, or War, or the Devil's Tower, the lightning struck tower. This is attributed to Mars, which is the planet of assertiveness, violence, stuff like that. So in the air, definitely conflict, war. And then we have the 5 of Swords, which is the Lord or Lady at the feet, and it's attributed to Venus in Aquarius. So Venus, again, being passion, creativity. Aquarius is a sign of uniqueness. It's a cardinal air sign, so asserting one's intellectual aspects in novel ways. And the Rider deck has looks like a victor who was in a battle and won and took swords from somebody else. So these people are defeated, and this one's a winner. This is the material aspects, so some sort of, again, conflict, military conflict. And then in the Partsufim, the salvific aspect, the Shin aspect of this, we have another trump, which is justice or adjustment, which is related to the zodiac sign of Libra, which is seeking equanimity, trying to be the peacemaker. So in regards to this, I definitely see with the War of Gog and Magog, it's like there's a lot of fate going on, a lot of stuff in providence, which could lead to it regarding war, fighting, perhaps winning battles in the Gaza Strip by Israel, trying to find justice in it all, but being ruled by passions and trying to use clever means of perhaps maintaining control in the land of Israel against Hamas terrorists. That would be my observations.
Okay, so in conclusion, I would say the tarot card reading definitely seems to indicate that there's a good chance this current Israel-Palestine conflict in the Middle East could end up becoming the biblical war of Gog and Magog in whatever aspects that means, literally or symbolically. Simply because I think a lot of the aspects that could be changed, I don't see the Netanyahu administration doing. I think they're acting overconfidently, and there's a lot of fate and a lot of trump cards involved in this, as well as a lot of court cards, which I think represent a lot of political people involved in this. And it seems like with this reading that there's a good chance this can escalate into a so-called War of Gog and Magog based on these factors. And I see these factors as definitely being more probable than improbable.